It seems every day people are discovering new things about Silksong. One of the coolest things I've discovered recently is the fact that you can actually unlock passive healing ability, and that is going to be very, very valuable in certain parts of the game. And it's actually a very cool way of unlocking it. It is going to have a couple of steps that are going to be required in order to do so. But once you do unlock it, you are going to be able to heal passively, similar to the ability in the first Hollow Knight. This is going to allow you to, when you do take damage, after a certain amount of time has passed, you will generate health bars, and this is going to basically allow you infinite health, and it's going to make you so much more difficult to kill, especially those more difficult platforming sections where you are going to be taking a bit of damage every now and then, and there aren't going to be that many enemies to actually heal you up, so it can be quite difficult for those sections. However, this is going to make your life so much easier. So the first steps you're going to need to do is you're going to need to be able to go to a couple of places on the map. The first place you're going to want to go to is going to be a place called Wormways, and Wormways is going to be accessible fairly early on in the game. All you got to do is you're going to go to Bone Bottom. There is going to be a shopkeeper there, and they're going to be able to sell you a key where you can ride a lift, like kind of like a cage looking thing where you can ride it up on the left hand side of the settlement. You can ride this all the way up top, then you can make your way to the left hand side, and you're going to see a pathway which is going to take you to Wormway. It's going to be a kind of like a very narrow corridor section with a lot of like these kind of centipedes are going to be jumping out of the walls. Very annoying, very dark, a bit of a maze to get through. But when you do end up going to this location, you're going to want to head on all the way to the top left hand side of this location, where you will find an NPC. He's going to be kind of doing this weird mad scientist thing where he's going to be experimenting with this new type of substance, this type of rare plant that you can only be grown in certain places, and he's going to ask you if you can find 3 samples to help complete his research, where he'll give you a reward. It's not very difficult to find, but you are going to need to make sure that you equip the tool that he's going to give you. He's going to give you a tool that you're going to be able to harvest these plants when you have this tool equipped. So make sure that you do end up equipping it, and then just make your way through Wormways. It's not that difficult to find. It's a fairly small area. It's just a little bit weird with the paths. It's a bit confusing, but it is not a huge area to search for. You shouldn't take too long to find these. Once you do end up finding all 3 of these plants, make your way back to the professor, hand them in, and he is going to then give you a new tool which is going to allow you to extend your health. When you do end up activating, you're going to get extra health bars. When you do end up getting hit, you are going to lose these health bars, however, and it's not going to be very easy to refill, unlike other tools where you can refill them every time you rest at a bench. With shards, you can refill your tools. This tool is only going to be able to be refilled by visiting the scientist, where you can spend a bit of rosaries to refill it. However, there is going to be a secret method of actually extending these health bars and making them actually passively heal you, and that is going to be by basically overdosing or using them more and more and more, until eventually the game is going to unlock a secret animation, which is then going to, you'll see all your health bars will then start glowing blue. You will see no white health bars, but the way you have to do this is going to be a little bit tricky. When you do end up sitting at a bench and refilling these tools, you are going to notice it's going to reset, and you're going to lose all your health bars. So how do you end up getting more tools without resetting them? However, there is going to be a way to do that, and that is going to be by using the Architect Crest. Now, the Architect Crest is going to be one that is going to be unlocked very late in the game, because you are going to need to make your way to the underworks below the Citadel, and you will see a room there where there will be an NPC, and you'll notice they will have a key there called the Architect's Key. Now, in order to buy this key, which is going to be very important because this is going to be how you unlock the crest, you are going to need to be able to prove your worth, and you're going to need to have, I think it's 12 to 15 tools going into this. When you have collected enough tools, you can visit the shopkeeper, and then they will be willing to sell you this key when you have proven to them that you are worthy by collecting enough tools in the game. Now, tools are obviously going to be unlocked and also going to be found in various locations, so you're going to have to do a bit of exploring. You can also find a tool or two for some shopkeepers, so make sure you keep your eye out for that. But when you have collected enough of these tools, you will be able to visit the shopkeeper, and they will sell you this key for 110 rosaries. Now, very close to this room where you do end up buying the key, you can make your way up, and you will see there is going to be a doorway which will need this key to open it. When you do end up opening this door, you can go inside, and this will then be how you unlock the Architect Crest. Now, what makes the Architect Crest so special is the Architect Crest is going to allow you to refill your tools wherever you are. You won't need to rest at a bench. You can actually refill them by making use of your silk and some shards, and this is going to allow you to refill your tools wherever you are. Now, if you do this, you're actually going to be able to refill your health vials without going to the professor, without spending any rosaries, and with this, you can actually overdose and utilize them more times than you should be able to. And if you do utilize them a second time around, you will notice after a couple of uses, you will see that your character will do this interesting animation, and you will see that all your health bars will then be glowing blue, which means every time you take damage, you are going to be generating the health back passively without needing to heal. You won't need any more silk to do this. You can then just use your silk to use your abilities and spam other tools, which is going to be very, very useful. Now, there is one caveat to this. It is not going to be permanent. If you do end up changing crests, or you do end up going to a bench, or you do end up dying completely, you will then lose out on this ability and have to do these steps again. However, it isn't going to be too difficult to do. It's just going to require a lot of shards, so make sure you do end up collecting all those shards if you want to use. I find it best to make use use of this in more difficult sections. If there's a section you know is going to be difficult, or there's a platforming section that's going to be challenging, or for whatever reason you think you are going to need a lot of health, but the game isn't going to give you any checkpoints in a long duration of time, this is great. This is going to be especially useful when it comes to traversing locations like bile water or anything that is going to have very few benches to rest, and this is going to allow you to passively heal, so you won't have to worry about running out of health in those longer, more annoying sections of the game, which can actually come in handy because there are some sections of this game that are very, very frustrating because there's just no healing around, and this is going to help out immensely. So all you got to do is basically make sure you end up doing the quest for the professor at Wormways, and make sure you are keeping your eye out for enough tools in order to purchase them from the NPC under the Underworks. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section if there's any secrets or cool abilities that you have unlocked or discovered that you think other people might not have found. I would love to find out. This game just has so many unique abilities that are very well hidden and actually quite difficult to find. So I'm curious to see if you guys have found any other ones that I might not know about. Anyway, I'll see you guys again next time. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.